I'd present you with an overview of the general European context in terms of cultural diplomacy. Then I'd try to say a few words about how we Romanians are looking at this present context and the value of the cultural diplomatic instrument. And if we survive to all the way to that point, maybe answer a question that I'm sure has been present with you during the proceedings today and maybe the days following, namely whether there is any such thing as a European House of Common Culture. I start with your permission with a quote that I hope was not produced already. It's a quote that describes perfectly the importance of intercultural dialogue in the European Union, but it belongs to a Mexican, that's Octavio Paz. I knew that he was a famous writer and poet, but I discovered with great pleasure that he was also a diplomat. I think, well, at least in Romania, everyone who is in the top levels of various professions, not least governmental positions, has at some point in time worked in the diplomatic service. So Octavio Paz said that any culture is born in mixing, in interaction, in confrontation. Conversely, it is in isolation that every civilization dies. And these words are very briefly describing what the strategic instrument or document that we have in this field as European Union, namely the European Agenda for Culture, is all about. Basically, it comes with two functions. This European Agenda for Culture, the basic document in this field. One, it is placing a strong emphasis on the systematic integration of the cultural dimension in all EU external policies, projects and programs. And second, it argues that there is no sustainable development without a mainstreaming approach that acknowledges the role of culture and takes into account the convergence of cultural diversity, economic effectiveness and social cohesion. Of course, bilateral cultural relations that member states are entertaining with third countries or third players in the global world are presently and will for sure remain what is the most salient aspect in this field for a long time. But at the same time, we see concerted EU action in areas of cultural diplomacy, developing synergies and bringing added value. That means that at the end of the day, we are now sharing responsibility, we all stakeholders, member states, EU institutions, and civil society alike. In the wake of this strategic document, the Agenda for Culture, there's a whole array of council work plans for culture that are also coming with as many working groups, meaning that are based on, that are predicated on an interaction between senior officials from both culture ministries and foreign affairs ministries. This is likely to, from our member states, this is likely to produce a very interesting outcome and synergy by all means. These work plans and the working groups are covering areas like, for instance, mobility of artists and museum collections, the structural dialogue with civil society, as well as a more prominent role for cultural and creative industries, the business part of it. We are in our endeavors within the European Union in this area that is not an integrated area, it's not a community area, but is based on cooperation rather. We are safely covered by on the global level by a convention, a UNESCO convention from 2005 on the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions, which is precisely endorsing or giving us the space for this kind of developments. There is ample room for participation of civil society. It reaffirms the dual nature of cultural activities, goods and services, as they have both an economic and spiritual value. But at the same time, they enjoy a privileged status because they convey identities, values, and meanings. I think the dual nature aspect is very important, and it also informs the debate you might wish to come back on in your comments and questions, the debate over the cultural exception or the exception of the cultural and audiovisual services from trade negotiations. One of the arguments is that it's precisely because of this dual nature that you cannot look at culture as a mere good or product or service, and that is why it deserves a specific treatment. In as far as Romania is concerned, we've, I think, always pleaded for a strategy in the EU external cultural relations that is at the same time comprehensive, differentiated, and autonomous. Our aim is to help us move from pure cultural diplomacy to a broader concept that is integrating cultural cooperation as well. That is passing from diplomacy to cooperation, from simply promoting one's culture and image in a unilateral manner to fostering an exchange aimed at achieving mutual benefits. And as far as the possible frameworks in which we can see these trends materializing, cultural and creative industries offer, in our view, the proper ambit for cultural cooperation. One of the reasons is that they are situated at crossroads between arts, technology, and business. They had both accelerated interest by governments in the export of their culture and provided the governments with a very good opportunity to also brand themselves by the very same token. Trade interests were linked to foreign affairs. I'll put forward some figures that look interesting to me. They come from a 2010 European Competitiveness Report, whereby cultural and creative industries account for 3.3% of the European GDP and employ 6.7 million people, which is 3% of the total active force in the European Union. That means that not only cultural and creative industries are or could be the new cultural ambassador in the world for the European Union, but also a very good opportunity, for instance, to allow small and medium cultural and creative enterprises to operate globally, reach new audiences worldwide, including by means of new technologies. This is not just an ephemeral trend, this emphasis and the hopes that are pinned on cultural and creative industries. There are specialized studies that were done over past decades that are proving, in fact, that cultural and creative industries attract highly qualified workforce, they diversify rural activities, they create new jobs, and increase the degree of attractiveness of a certain region. This is why, alongside with other member states, Romania has supported the maximum budget for an EU financial facility that is precisely supporting small and medium cultural enterprises in the cultural and creative sector. In fact, the cultural programs, I remember a recent discussion with Commissioner Vasiliu, the cultural programs are miraculously the only one where the absolute increase for the next financial perspective of the European Union, the 2014-2020 programming period, this increase did not have any need to be argued. We fought over everything else. Most of the programs were drastically cut against the severe austerity context in which we live, but miraculously there was no debate, and conversely there was an increase in the cultural programs such as Creative Europe, for instance. Therefore, we are safe for at least the 7 years ahead. That should be only not surprising, since creativity is the ultimate endless resource. Creative Europe, this program I mentioned, will offer these opportunities to cultural players to operate nationally, transnationally as well. This is where the notion of mobility comes into the cultural field, and you will be surprised to know how many opportunities and programs are addressing precisely obstacles encountered by third country nationals, such as visa challenges for artists, students, and researchers. This is also bringing me to migration issues. You know the sensitivity of this topic, but in as far as the mobility of third country artists or researchers is concerned, this seems to be less of a difficult point. The EU visa migration policy is in fact conducive of the most extensive use of legal channels of migration and bona fide travelers. They are not, these third country partners of ours are not only able to get exposed to our day-to-day life, to the challenges, the ideas that are of interest to us, but they are in fact benefiting from a mobility that is absolutely comparable with the one that EU citizens benefit from when moving on the internal market, basically without any restrictions. Finally, and this is the question you will probably address all through the proceedings that you'll have, is whether we have a common European house of culture. And I'd start from the obvious assumption that, of course, as Europeans, we all share common values: freedom of expression, freedom of thought, equal access to information, democracy, and so on and so forth. From this point of view, we can speak about a common cultural identity. But Europe is for the Europeans what the House of Fiction was for Henry James, namely a building which has not one window but a million. And hence no single aperture gives access to what he called the need of the individual vision and the pressure of the individual will. The European Union is definitely not a hotel where you check in and you leave your luggage that is too heavy or is useless, only to travel lightly on the internal market. A European cannot be a European coming from nowhere. A European has to come from somewhere. It has to come from Belgium, from Romania, from France, you name it. After all, a well-known contemporary philosopher said that the only common feature of us Europeans is that we are all different. And this leads us inevitably to the famous discussion around the unity in diversity concept and the parallels with the United States of America. And I'd put forward that we are not a melting pot, but a rather rich mosaic. Allegedly, Jean Monnet said once, if I had to start all over again, I'd start the European project with culture, although it is not very certain that he actually said that, but it is plausible, and it is convenient both for Euro pessimists as it is for Euro optimists, since it shows that there is need of further integration. Culture is smart power. It makes integration more legitimate, and we are badly suffering from sufficient legitimacy in bolder and bolder projects that we are embarking on as European Union. I don't think this is altered in any way by the increased use of internet and online communication. On the contrary, this is only strengthening the cultural specificity and the means that enable it to take part in the global cultural dialogue. The next to last thing I'd say is that obviously our political geography, but also our cultural geography is changed dramatically after what was the Big Bang enlargement with countries from Central and Eastern Europe, and maybe it's no coincidence that you only or mostly invited and had speakers, very notable speakers from these countries. This enlargement, the latest enlargement, is definitely changing the cultural geography of the European Union, and that's one argument for going for a more integrated approach in the European Union on culture. And lastly, I'd say that we need to give much more importance to the virtues of cultural dialogue, cultural interaction, since I guess this is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to create that kind of environment that helps us fight some elusive phenomena that are very difficult to counter with conventional political means or with legal means, and that's the proliferation of xenophobia, hatred, and other nationalistic, homophobic tendencies. They are best fought by cultural means. So that would end my presentation. I hope to get more reactions from you than my previous speaker, who was obviously so good and comprehensive in his presentation that there was no need to add anything probably. Thanks for your attention, and I look forward to your comments.